Do you need a thought to confirm that you're in a thoughtless space? This is a question I get asked on occasion, and I always find it very interesting that we're so addicted to thought. We're so bound into the belief that we need thoughts to function, that we believe we can't even have an awareness or a knowing of a state of no thought without thinking about it. The funny thing about this is we all have experiences of no thought throughout the day. It's just that our identity is so tied into content, the logical, cognitive process, that we've convinced ourselves that without actively thinking, without the proof of thought, there's nothing really there. Or that there can't be a clear, distinct awareness of what is, being, even self. The ironic thing about this is that what ultimately defines that first big shift, the first awakening, is this belief is turned completely inside out. It becomes absurdly obvious that what feels like self, what feels like I am, or just pure being, is clearly and obviously primary to any thought you could ever have about it. From this perspective, it's laughable that we used to believe we had to think to confirm ourselves as the thinker. And yet, before that shift, it feels very binding. It really does feel like I have to think to be who I am. I have to think to know. So that's why this very simple technique of self-inquiry is so powerful, especially for this first movement. Because it gives us the tool, the simple tool to leverage that belief and see what's behind it. Or to hold up a mirror and look back and see what it is that's believing those thoughts in the first place. What is it that's convinced that it needs to think, to know, to understand, to be? If you think about this, or if you just observe the thought process, it becomes quite obvious that a thought without the thinker is nothing. It's useless. It's like a sentence written on a piece of paper that no one is reading. A thought has no power until you give it power, until the sense of you subjects itself to that thought and tries to define itself by that thought, and then the next thought, and then the next thought, and then gets hypnotized with the thought stream. So who are you? Who's the one that believes the thought that says, I don't think I can know myself without a thought. I don't believe I can exist in a thoughtless state without a thought. So who is it that knows that thought? Who is it that's aware of that thought? Look there. Whatever doubt arises in the mind, notice the structure of that thought. I don't think it's possible to wake up. I think waking up is something that happens to other people, or it's mysterious, or it's an imagined eventuality. Those are all thoughts. So who is aware of those thoughts at the moment they are arising and departing? Have you noticed that a thought seems to flavor your experience, and then when the next thought flavors your experience, you conveniently forget that there was something that moved between those experiences? So what is it that's there before a thought arises and flavors your immediate experience? It's like a monkey swinging from tree to tree. That's an analogy that's pretty common, the monkey mind. But we're so fixated on the branches of the trees, one after the other, thought after thought, that we forget we're the monkey. The monkey doesn't have to move between thoughts. It doesn't have to have a thought to be what it is. It doesn't have to have a thought to know itself. So can you just stop thinking? Yes. Just don't produce a thought. And when you do that, it's very common to start to feel an urgency. Almost like you're holding your breath and you need to take another breath. But unlike breathing, you don't need to take another thought. You can remain in the thoughtless, clear, awake state. And just experience. Experience no thoughts. Even the thought, I or I am. Just disregard it. Don't move your mind. It's perfectly possible. And if you're able to sit with it through that urgency, through that sense of fear, then the body will calm down, the fear will subside, and there will still be just this thoughtless state. Don't grab onto the thought that arises. Just let it subside. Pay attention to the one that's paying attention. It's knowing of pure knowing, or a light shining into itself instead of shining onto a thought object. These are just analogies, don't think about it. But it has that feel to it. Completely awake, no content, not contemplating, not thinking about something, not grabbing a life raft with the next thought. You can just stay here. Or you can ask, what is this? When you ask that, you're only orienting back to it, not to a thought, not to a principle, not to an answer. If you come up with an answer you can write down, that's a thought. You're just using the question to orient toward the experience itself, nothing more. We don't care about descriptions of experience here, only the pure experience. We can throw away the map once we taste the territory and just remain in the territory. This is what you came for. It's been here the whole time. We've just become addicted to thinking, self-defining, relating to seeming outside experiences. If you stay here long enough, the identity will shift. Don't worry about what that means. It's not something that's understandable, but it will be exquisitely obvious at the instinctual level. So just stay in that thoughtless space, completely awake, alert, not trying to make thoughts, not trying to understand anything, not trying to go anywhere, not trying to hold on to anything, not trying to understand anything, not trying to wake up, not comparing this experience to an imagined experience or something someone told you. This needs no descriptors. It needs no confirmation. You are the confirmation of you. The aware one that has no definite shape or form. Has no limitation, no boundary. It's not coming from somewhere. It didn't go anywhere. Just here. Just this. This is the practiceless practice. Exquisitely simple. Don't dirty it up with thoughts. Don't touch it with the dirty fingers of the mind. It's unnecessary. It's complete neutrality, in a sense. Simple awakeness. Do you see how you don't have to turn around and define yourself or describe your experience to yourself? Those are just thoughts, seemingly dividing an undivided experience, an indivisible experience. So remain in the undivided. Know pure knowing. Let all the expectations drop out. Let all the agendas drop out. Give yourself the gift of unqualified presence. Indescribable presence. Notice here that nothing moves. And yet there's freedom of movement. Nothing is held or held onto. And yet everything is allowed. Just stay here.